Coming from the perspective of welfare economics, trade tends to see a benefit to all those that participate. Now, in welfare economics, the economic well-being is measured by the total surplus in that market. That is given by the sum of the consumer surplus, the difference between the price consumers are willing to pay and then the price that they actually pay at market value, and the producer surplus, which is the difference between the market price and the minimum price at which producers are willing to sell their product. Let's think of this using an example. Let's consider the market for apples in Canada, let's say. In this hypothetical, we'll say that consumers are willing to pay $5 per bag of apples, but market equilibrium price has it set to them being sold at $4 per bag. This would mean that at a quantity of 2 bags of apples, the consumer surplus is 1. In this example, let's also say that the producers to sell apples in Canada have a minimum price at which they would sell for $3 per bag. But market price, they're receiving $4 per bag. In the same case of 2 bags being produced, the producer surplus is also 1, thus making the total surplus in this market 2. Now, when trade gets involved, the surplus stats can be changed. Let's say that the world market price of apples is $4 per bag, but in Switzerland, apples can be produced and sold at $2 per bag. Under free trade, Canada might import apples from Switzerland, allowing the new market price in Canada for apples to be $2 per bag. Now, consumer surplus increases to 3 at quantity 2, since consumers in Canada are now purchasing bags of apples for $2 instead of 4, thus increasing the economic well-being of consumers. However, in this case, now local apple producers in Canada are faced with competition from the Switzerland market. In this case, the minimum price Canadian apple producers are willing to sell for at $3 per bag isn't what they're going to be receiving, and thus they will produce less as they're only making now $2 per bag of apples, thus decreasing the surplus for Canadian producers. Now, even though this is the case and producer surplus drops, consumer surplus increases by more, thus resulting in a net increase in total surplus. Thus, given welfare economics, the trade in the market created a net gain in economic well-being.